What is the crown jewel that effortlessly fulfills all wishes? Bodhicitta would be a good answer. But it's not the answer here. A supreme master of the Mahayana who guides one along the path to perfection. Okay? What is the crown jewel that effortlessly fulfills all wishes? A supreme master of the great way, in other words, a Mahayana teacher, who guides one along the path to perfection. Okay, so we have to ask, well, why is a Mahayana teacher the crown jewel that effortlessly fulfills all wishes? Why? Okay. Huh? Okay, because without the teacher, there's no other jewels to find. Yeah, yeah. So that's exactly it, that it's due to the teacher that we're introduced to the Dharma, that we learn the Dharma, we learn how to look at our own mind, we learn how to work with our own mind, we learn about bodhicitta and wisdom and so on. Yeah, and without a teacher, we're kind of left to our own devices. And so somebody might have a very genuine spiritual yearning, but they don't know what to do with it. Yeah, so this may have been like us before we met the Dharma. You're looking for something, but you don't know where to go, what to do. Yeah, and you know, and here it also specified, what did he say? A supreme master, a supreme Mahayana master. So I think supreme here is meaning like a fully qualified Mahayana master. In other words, somebody who has all the qualities to be able to lead us from here to awakening. And so that's really stressing the importance of having a qualified teacher, not just somebody who has the name teacher, because now in the West anyway, anybody can make themselves into a teacher. But that doesn't mean they really are one. And it doesn't mean that they are a qualified one. Yeah, and His Holiness often says that there's people who are nobody in Asia and they come here and all of a sudden they have a string of titles attached to their name. Yeah, so it's quite important to really investigate a person and know their qualities and see if they're capable of guiding you and if they understand the Dharma well enough to do that. Yeah, because it would be like, you know, if you're going to go to flight school, you want somebody who knows how to fly an airplane to teach you. You don't want, you know, somebody who's been throwing paper airplanes, or somebody, you know, even who knows how to fix airplanes but doesn't know how to fly one. Okay? So, you know, we really need to look for somebody who's qualified. And then here it's specifying a Mahayana master, because that will enable us to enter the Bodhisattva vehicle straight away instead of progressing on the path to arhatship, liberating ourselves, and then later having to go back and start the Bodhisattva path from the path of accumulation all over again. Yeah. The spiritual master is often called the root of the path. And I think if you look at a plant, you know, the root is not the whole path, the whole plant, okay? But the root is what grounds the plant. And the root is where you get, the plant gets a lot of its nourishment. And so it is too when we have a qualified teacher and a good relationship with that teacher, then that can be very, very nourishing to us, not only in terms of learning the Dharma, but in terms of feeling inspired to practice, in terms of somebody pointing out to us the things that we need to work on, or somebody correcting our misunderstandings, of which we have more than too much. Yeah, and so, you know, and then especially somebody in the Mahayana tradition who can really take us on lead us on the Bodhisattva path. Yeah, because without that, we wind up making up our own path. Yeah, I was talking about that the other day. I remember Lama Yeshe used to call it making soup. You know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And, you know, but it's not necessarily a clear path. It may make us feel good and may be helpful for a while, but it's not going to take us all the way to full awakening. Yeah? And so we really want to find, you know, a teacher who teaches the path as taught by the Buddha himself. You know, not some New Age somebody who, you know, made something up last Friday, and not somebody who doesn't know the teachings well. And, you know, because what I've really noticed is very often the first things we learn about Dharma are the things we remember the most. And so if we learn something that's erroneous at the beginning, it can really take us a long time to undo it, because that thought keeps coming back. Yeah. So, yeah. And then it's not just a question of finding a teacher, it's a question also of establishing a good relationship with that teacher. And that's up to the students to establish the relationship. The teacher isn't going to go around and, you know, call all the students every week, hi, how are you doing, how's your practice? I mean, could you imagine somebody like His Holiness trying to do that with thousands of people? Or even somebody who doesn't have thousands of students. You know, it's not up to the teacher to do that. It's up to the students to contact the teacher and to create the relationship by going to where the teacher is and listening to teachings and offering service and so on. Yeah, that effortlessly fulfills all wishes. I think it means if you have a good relationship with a qualified teacher, of course effort on the path is required. Yeah, but what it's meaning here is that it doesn't have to be this strenuous, kind of heavy thing. Yeah, but when the student is receptive and the teacher has the ability, then things go very quickly and very smoothly. Yeah, so that's what the effortlessly means there. It doesn't mean that nobody has to exert any effort and it all kind of happens by magic. No. Yeah, I mean, that's why the teacher may be very qualified, but if we aren't a qualified student, you know, and we're full of our own ideas and we don't want to listen to what teachers recommend and they point things out to us and we get defensive and everything that happens we blame somebody else, then, you know, you could have the Buddha here and we're not going to progress on the path. Yeah. Okay, so it's not just a question of finding the teacher, it's making ourselves into a receptive student too.